I just don't, I see it as something that we kind of like to toy with in our imagination, but I don't really
Yeah.
see it as something that would happen in my lifetime. And it's not something that I particularly care too much about, really.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. All right. And what are some other activities you're doing in your life right now, like in real life, besides YouTube?
Yeah. So in real life, like I said, I'm doing the car like on and off camera. I have a 7-year old. That would be a whole nother story in itself. He was born extremely premature. He was born at like 6 months. So he was very, very, very almost didn't make it. So, he's actually getting bigger. He just had he had a trach his whole life. So he finally just got the hole closed, got the trach out. And so he's getting louder. So I'm definitely enjoying more time at home with him during this whole pandemic thing going on. So other than that, really just trying to get stuff together, get back into doing stuff on my own. Like I finally got the motivation to start doing it, and reached out and actually had a special ball, because I actually used to play soccer. I played soccer from age like 9 all the way up until age 37 when I was diagnosed, and they told me not to play anymore, which was probably what caused my bleed. So I played adult leagues like co-ed, men, women, and adult like over 30 leagues. So I played a lot of soccer. And so I've actually just had the lady from my Foundation for the Blind, or Department of Services for the Blind, they actually had a special soccer ball made for me that has a bell in it, so I can kick it and I'll know
Wonderful.
where it is when it's rolling. Yeah. So
Wonderful.
getting
So
back into
good.
getting
So
back into
good.
that. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. There's, I mean, I'm not terribly athletic, but there are a lot of sports. There's a whole association of blind athletes. There's a lot that
Yeah.
that you can do with just sports. Yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, I guess the sports I do are, the electric scooter sport. I guess you can say that's a sport. I also
Yeah.
sail. Um, that sailing is a lot of fun. Yeah.
Oh yeah, a lot of
Do
work
you,
too, I heard.
it is. It is. Do you have you done that? Have you sailed much?
I've sailed. Honestly, I'll keep it real with you. Like I can swim, but I'm scared of water. Like when it comes to that
Mm,
kind of water, like yeah. So that's not really my thing. I've done it when I was little. I sailed to an island, and other than that, I haven't really been on a sailboat.
I see. It's a lot of fun. It's really inspirational. It's really cool being out there on a sailboat for sure.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of work because my
Yeah.
my father does it, but it's challenging for him. You kind of need a
Yep.
couple sighted friends to really be able
Yep.
to do it. It's a little tricky with just one person,
Yeah.
and then I help the best I can, but it's still a little difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, as we've come into finally the final, basically 12 minutes,
Oh,
what are
nice.
your, what are your, it really flew by. Well, that, at the beginning there, we started off slow, but then you really went into a big monologue there. You went over into a monologue you spoke for about 12 to 13 minutes at one point without stopping. That big emotional monologue in the middle, that was really, really good. So what are your goals for this Life Without Sight group? Where do you see it going? What else do you think about that?
So yeah, with that group, it's definitely gonna be something I think is gonna grow, and it's gonna get big. It's just gonna be keeping it on. We don't really want it to be a topic, but you have 4 different people that are controlling it. 2 admins and 2 moderators, and we all have completely different personalities, and we all have different opinions on the way things should go. Like, for instance, for me, I believe that great things will happen over time, and I believe that groups will grow the right way if you don't force it. Like, you don't need to try to get you know 500 members and 1,000 or whatever,
No.
like immediately. You don't do that, because then you're just asking for a different type of element just to get numbers in there, where that's how I feel about it. Like, the other admin, like, he wants to grow fast, like invite people in, call, like, I'm like, you know what, it'll grow as it wants, it'll grow as it needs, but the minute you start forcing it is the minute it'll stop working. So we just want it to be, I want it to
Exactly.
be, I guess, I want it to be a group where people like you, people like me, everyone can be different, and they can come and say what their real problems are, and not even just real problems, but hey, what their real life reality is they're doing, and hey, like, what do you think about this?
Right. Right. Exactly. 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 That's yeah. And how did you all? I mean, how did you all come in contact with each other? How did you? I mean, you and John Wilbert Colley were in the same group, I guess. But then, how did you meet all the other admins and all the other people?
Yeah, so actually Tracy Lynn was actually the girl that actually made the post about John being taken out of the group that we were in, and I was like, oh wow, I don't agree with that. But then a different group, it's not the blind and visually impaired support group. It was a blind and visually impaired support network that's more worldwide. I met my friend Jenny in that group who lives in Australia. And the minute we talked, we went through pretty much our stories were identical, except for hers was from a different cause of her blindness than mine was. But we hit it off like her and her husband, and my wife and me, we talk like, they're a day ahead, but like 7 hours behind, if that makes any sense to you. So like on our same day, like, like for instance, like it's
Anytime.
nighttime now.
Listener, let me just tell you, if you want to talk to someone in Australia, just talk to them whenever you want, because it's never going to be the. I'm not.
Exactly.
I'm done. I'm done dealing with these time zones. You know what? I'll send out a Zoom invite. Okay, if you figure it out, and you know what I've discovered. I've discovered that by having that sort of blunt, as you can tell, I'm a pretty blunt and outspoken individual.
Good.
It, most of the time. Um, I've found out that when I send out Zoom invitations, I've discovered that the people who really want to be on my show make the effort and come like you did. The
Oh yeah.
people and they figure out what time to come, and they
Oh
figure it
yeah.
out. You know. But yeah, the other thing that makes it a lot easier is if you would only is if you
Yeah.
is
I
if
just,
you would
like,
use. Sorry for that. I coughed.
oh, you're good.
If
Oh,
you
you're good.
I muted it out. Yeah. Uh, the other thing is to try it with people. I've given up on it because no one else will do it. But try to use the UTC. Try to use the universal clock, because that solves a lot of these problems. But then again, if you're dealing with Australia, the gap is so severe. That's almost as
Mhm.
bad as it is in India too, because in India it's not the same minute as it is here. So that's
Yeah.
that's that's a nightmare. Just forget it. Forget it. If you want to talk about what day or time it is in those other end of the world, just forget about it.
Yeah.
It's just universal time. It's just a universe time, I guess. Yeah. Hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. If you want to make it happen, you'll make it happen. That's
Yeah,
where it is.
and people who care enough about Zoom or care enough about coming to a certain show, they'll look at the invitation and do the calculation. It
Yep.
it
Yeah.
is it is interesting how Zoom shows it in the host time, though. It doesn't show it in your time, so people have to be kind of aware of that, I guess. But
Okay.
well, good. If you could add me to that network, that global network, because I really enjoy being in blind and visually impaired groups that are global, so I can
Yeah, for
talk
sure.
to people all over the world and get this podcast as internationally distributed and really
Oh,
have a
nice.
have
Yeah.
a global feel. That's really exciting. I've had people from England, Tunisia, Scotland, Canada, Jamaica. So I've
Hmm.
gotten a lot of several countries, but I really want to stretch it all over the globe. You can never have too many countries listening. It's
Exactly.
pretty cool. So, so what did you think of this experience? Has this been your first experience on a podcast?
It actually has, and I'm actually very
Really?
proud. I'm actually very happy to be here because I've just always been a natural talker, like a natural leader,
You
and I just
are. You are. You did well. When you went into that monologue, that serious monologue, you got emotional about it. I felt your emotion about it, and
yeah.
then you came out of it, and then you were able to really transition. You really handled yourself well. Well, the,
Thank
re- the
you.
reason the reason I'm asking it is I hope it was a positive enough experience for you to tell John Wilbert Colley to come back so that I can get him on my show, because
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'll tell him. Yeah, for sure.
see if you can see, or maybe one of the other admins would express some interest, or maybe some international
Oh yeah,
people
for
that
sure. Oh yeah.
but
Oh,
but
definitely.
I'm not gonna lie. I've seen a lot of John Wilbert Colley's stuff, and he's very funny. He really loves to joke around and talk and have a fun conversation. So I think he just needs a little bit of encouragement, right? Or
Yeah.
is there some trick to get him to come? Is there some magic formula to get him to come on to Zoom? What do you think about that?
I would think that he would just come. I mean, like I said, like, you see him in the group, see the way he talks, and I've had a chance to talk to him, obviously being an admin with him, like talking to him. He just definitely, like, for me, likes to be definitely in the spotlight, and definitely, I don't know if I want to say wants to be, like, famous and be that person, but he definitely, likes attention. So I'm a little surprised he didn't come on, because
Oh,
he always
that's all
seems
right.
like he has a lot to say. So
That's all right. I understand that the way that I talk and I send him a messenger, the way I sound, I am quite I do at times come across as very stern, so I think that can kind of make people a little scare people a little bit. So it is understandable to be a little cautious, but I certainly hope that we would have him here. Well, I mean, all right. And so you have your YouTube channel, and then what are some other hobbies? About 3 minutes now. What are some other
about 3 minutes
hobbies?
now.
What are some other hobbies that you haven't mentioned?
Okay, yeah. So I'll go ahead and just say it now, just in case we're out of time. But check out the YouTube. It's C Dubs Blind Life. So CDUBS Blind Life. That is my channel. And other hobbies I have, honestly, I was talking about motorcycles. Like, besides the soccer ball and stuff like that, like getting out there and kicking it with my son. What I'm actually going to do, I mean, I used to do a lot of stunt bike riding. So I'm actually, after I'm done doing the car, I'm actually going to buy another bike, and I'm going to just start riding it in empty parking lots and learn how to do that again.
Right, right.
So,
I'm sure
yep.
that if we have a driverless car, why can't we have a driverless motorcycle? Why can't we use that same technology so that we can get you back on a motorcycle? Why can't we have technology? I'm sure we can have technology like that, right?
I think we can, but I think that, like, where I'm going with this goal, I'm actually going to be practicing, because a lot of people that do stunt bike riding, they do stunt bike riding in parking lots. So I'm going to get back to that point, because I still know the feel of it, but don't have the sight of it. So I know for sure I'll get back in there and still be doing wheelies and rolling stoppies on the front tire. But the only bad thing is there's a chance of me going down, but I know I'm not going to die at 30 miles per hour. So
Right, right. Well, and back to the motorcycle. What was the longest distance you ever traveled? What was the longest trip you took on your motorcycle?
So I know we're coming up short on time, but I live in Seattle, Washington. So just gives you a frame of reference. I went up I-90 with a president of my club. We went up I-90 to the far east city of our state, which was Spokane. We crossed over there, went through the whole state of Idaho, went through Missoula, Montana, dropped down Highway 15 to Salt Lake City, went from there through the four corners where, like, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and like some other state they touch. And then we stayed in Las Vegas for like a couple hours to sleep, and then went to see another member that lived in Phoenix, Arizona, traveled back from Phoenix through San Diego, then up to LA, stayed there for a little bit, traveled back through Portland and back home. So it was a
Wow.
4,800 mile trip, 4,800 miles on our butts.
And how did those cycles take it? Was that a lot of wear and tear? Did that really give the cycle a run for its money, or was it really built to handle that?
Yeah, it was actually when I made the decision to go with Harley. So I had a sport bike, and it ended up breaking before I could go on the trip. So a really good friend of mine let me borrow his bike, and that's what convinced me to get a Harley. So
Hmm. I see. I see. How much with these different brands, these different models of motorcycle, how much of a difference is there, I guess? How much do you notice from one brand to the other? Is it like night and day, or is it all pretty similar? What do you think as far as handling and like driving goes?
yeah, humongous difference. Like, obviously Harley is going to be Harley, which is great for long distance straight line like relaxation. I've had Kawasaki, I've had Yamaha, I've had Suzuki, I've had Honda. I've never actually owned, like, the cool brands like Ducati, but I've ridden them, or Triumph. But
Cool, 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 cool.
yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that was, ladies and gentlemen, that was Chris Williams, founder or co-founder, actually, of Life Without Sight. That was a very, very serious and a very interesting episode of Aaron's Opinion podcast for blind people. We spoke about issues in the blindness community. This is KCGN Caroline Radio, wishing you a very good day today.